Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into something that's reshaping how enterprises handle customer service, especially here in Europe. We're talking about Agentic AI for enterprise workflows, and specifically, how cities like Rotterdam are using these systems to transform customer service orchestration. Sam, this is a topic that's been getting a lot of buzz lately, but I think a lot of people still confuse Agentic AI with regular chatbots. Where should we start?
Great question, Alex. The distinction is huge, and it's really the foundation for understanding why enterprises are investing in this shift right now. Traditional chatbots are reactive. You ask them something, they pattern match to a predefined response, and that's it. Agentic AI is fundamentally different. These systems have agency. They maintain memory across sessions, they reason about multi-step problems, and they actually make autonomous decisions based on business logic. It's the difference between a vending machine and a concierge.
I like that analogy. So, we're not just upgrading the same old chatbot technology, this is genuinely a new paradigm. Let's ground this in some real numbers. I saw in the research that Agentic AI deployments are showing some pretty dramatic ROI improvements. What are we looking at?
The numbers are striking. According to MIT Sloan's 2026 data, enterprises deploying Agentic AI in customer service are seeing a 40% reduction in average resolution time and a 35% improvement in first contact resolution rates. For Rotterdam businesses especially, logistics companies, financial services, e-commerce platforms, those metrics directly hit the bottom line. But here's what's even more interesting: the memory component. Forster found that when you add multi-session memory to agentic systems, you get 28% higher customer satisfaction scores and a 42% reduction in repeat contacts.
Hold on, let me translate that for our listeners. A 42% reduction in repeat contacts means you're not making customers repeat themselves. That's not just efficiency. That's actually a better customer experience. How does that memory system actually work in practice?
Exactly. Instead of treating every interaction as isolated, like how traditional systems work, Agentic AI builds rich, structured profiles of each customer. We're talking about persistent records of their intent, their preferences, their past issues, and how those issues were resolved. So when a customer interacts with the system, whether it's their first contact or their 10th, the system already understands the context. It doesn't make them re-explain everything. For a mid-market company handling 10,000 interactions monthly, that's recovering about 4,200 hours of support capacity annually. That's real money.
That's a staggering amount of capacity. Now, I want to shift to something that's becoming increasingly important: voice. We've been talking about text-based customer service for so long, but voice is making a comeback in enterprise settings. What's happening there?
This is one of the biggest trends nobody's talking about enough. Voice interactions now account for 31% of all customer service inquiries in Northern Europe, and that number's climbing. But here's the problem. Most enterprises still don't have native voice AI capabilities integrated with their other channels. So you've got this weird disconnect where customers expect to call in, explain their issue, and then seamlessly switch to chat or email if they want. But the context doesn't follow them. That's where multimodal agentic systems come in.
So the agent, the AI system, needs to work across voice, chat, email, all of it simultaneously, and keep everything coherent. Let's walk through a real scenario. What would that look like for an actual Rotterdam business?
Perfect. Imagine a Rotterdam logistics company gets a call from a frustrated customer about a delayed shipment. With a multimodal agentic system, here's what happens. The customer calls in and describes the problem via natural speech. The voice AI processes that in real time, understands the context, maybe this is their third delayed shipment, and immediately pulls up the relevant shipping data, warehouse information, and previous interactions. The system doesn't just log the complaint, it's already reasoning about root causes and potential solutions. Maybe it identifies a pattern with shipments to a specific region. Maybe it can offer compensation or expedited reshipping before the customer even asks.
And if that customer decides they want to follow up via email or switch to chat?
All that context travels with them. The email system or the chat system already knows the full history, the voice interaction, the exact problem, everything. There's no repetition, no, let me transfer you to someone who can help. The agentic system orchestrates the entire journey. It can even make decisions about routing. Maybe this needs to go to a specific department, or maybe a particular support person has handled similar issues successfully. The system learns from outcomes and adjusts accordingly.
This is starting to sound incredibly sophisticated, but I know there's a regulatory piece to this, especially in Europe. We have the EU AI Act coming into effect. How does compliance factor into enterprise deployments of Agentic AI?
This is critical, and it's something a lot of enterprises are wrestling with right now. The EU AI Act imposes specific requirements around transparency, human oversight, and bias mitigation for high-risk AI systems. Customer service automation is generally considered high risk because it involves decision-making that affects people. So any agentic system deployed in Rotterdam or elsewhere in the EU needs to be built with compliance in mind from the ground up. You can't just bolt on compliance at the end.
What does that actually mean for an enterprise? What do they need to do differently?
You need explainability built in. When the system makes a decision, escalating a ticket, offering compensation, routing to a specific department, that decision needs to be traceable and explainable to both the customer and your internal compliance team. You need human oversight mechanisms, especially for edge cases. You need to actively monitor for bias in how the system handles different customer segments, and you need audit trails. Everything the system does needs to be logged and reviewable. Platforms like EtherBot are designed with these requirements in mind from day one, which is why enterprise adoption has accelerated.
So compliance isn't a barrier. It's actually becoming table stakes for enterprise-grade solutions. Let's talk about practical implementation. If a Rotterdam business is considering this shift, what's the realistic timeline and what should they be thinking about first?
Implementation varies, but you're looking at a phased approach. Phase 1 is usually a pilot. Pick a specific customer service flow, maybe inbound phone support or email triage, and deploy an agentic system there. See how it performs, gather data on ROI, work out the integration challenges with your existing systems. That's typically 3 to 6 months. Phase 2 is expanding to additional channels and use cases. But here's what's crucial. You need clean data and well-defined workflows before you launch. Garbage in, garbage out applies to Agentic AI just like anything else.
What about costs? Is this a massive investment that only large enterprises can afford?
It's gotten more accessible. You don't necessarily need to build everything from scratch. Platform-based solutions, and this is where EtherBot comes in, allow mid-market companies to deploy enterprise-grade agentic AI without building custom infrastructure. You're looking at implementation costs that are often offset within 6 to 12 months by the efficiency gains we talked about earlier. The 40% reduction in resolution time, the 42% fewer repeat contacts, that's real capacity recovery that translates to ROI.
I think the takeaway here is that Agentic AI isn't some distant future technology. It's here, it's being deployed now, and enterprises that move thoughtfully and strategically are already seeing measurable benefits. Sam, before we wrap up, what's the one thing you'd want listeners to remember about Agentic AI and customer service?
It's not just about automation for automation's sake. The real value is in memory, context, and orchestration, giving your customers frictionless experiences while simultaneously recovering massive amounts of support capacity, and do it compliantly from day one. That's the winning formula for 2026 and beyond.
Excellent. Listeners, if you want to dive deeper into this topic, the specifics of how Agentic AI orchestrates customer service, compliance strategies, and implementation case studies from Rotterdam enterprises, check out the full article on EtherLink.ai. We've linked it in the show notes. Thanks for joining us on EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, everyone.